Crescent Beach Jane Doe, identified as Mary Pultz. Today's Jane Doe was found in April of 1985 on a Crescent beach in St. Johns County, Florida. It was here that workers were digging post holes for a beach stairway and accidentally found the remains of a person. She had been buried in a shallow area of the beach, and she'd been there for at least a few years. They believed her to be white and between the ages of 30 and 50. While her COD wasn't released, they would say it's foul play. They were able to learn nothing, though, of who she was, and the case would just go colder and colder over the years. In 2011 and 2012, they would take another crack at it. The University of South Florida would develop a composite of what the Jane Doe would have possibly looked like, as well as doing the traditional DNA that they use for CODIS. That's a one-on-one comparison with others that are in the database. But there was unfortunately no hits. That is until June of 2022, when the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office attended a cold case class and the use of genetic genealogy. In 2023, Othram would become involved, and they would develop DNA that was used for genetic genealogy, which, of course, in the end, would lead to the name of Mary Alice Pultz. Through a match to the DNA from her younger sister and her son, the two had never lost hope finally knowing what happened to Mary. Mary Alice's son, Norman, lives in Arizona, and her sister, Patricia, lives in Virginia. Mary Alice had gone missing around 1968. It appears she had left town with her boyfriend, a man named Billy Joe Fugit, who possibly the family didn't approve of. She was 35 to 40 at the time when this happened, and unfortunately this led to the estrangement of her from her family. No one knows for sure just how long she was alive and with Fugit, who went by the alias of Billy Joe. They found holes in her skull in a re-examination of her remains, which they believe indicate that she'd had an accident shortly after she left her family. The holes were put there to relieve pressure on her brain. There were also multiple fractures of the nasal bone. She had multiple rib fractures that had healed, as well as fractures in her lower legs. The totality of the injuries they believed had led to hospitalization. She also was suffering from severe abscesses in her upper gums that would have caused constant pain. It didn't lead to any more evidence as to what happened to her. The medical examiner would say this investigation is a powerful example that we will never give up. The combination of highly skilled detectives and advanced DNA technology has given Mary Alice's family some answers about her disappearance. Mary Alice's sister is 72, and she would tell the investigators that she thought she would die without ever knowing what became of her sister. It shows how important these identifications are. Mary Alice Pultz went unidentified for 39 years, and she was a missing person for 56. She was found roughly 500 miles or 805 kilometers from where she went missing. The Los Angeles Jane Doe, 1975, Los Angeles, California. We begin this case in August of 1975 on the west coast of the United States. A female was discovered on the freeway below the First Street Bridge in Los Angeles, California. They believe our Jane Doe in this case was perhaps slightly under 18 to the age of 21. She was only 5'1" or 154 centimeters, or around 103 pounds and 47 kilograms. She had shoulder-length black hair and brown eyes. It's believed that she chose to jump from the bridge above onto the greenway below. As a result, she was hit multiple times, which I hate to even have to say. I can't help but wonder what this also did to the people that hit her. I imagine it's something a person doesn't get over when they're driving. So the whole thing is really sad. One possible clue to her identity was that her index finger was shorter than normal, and this is due to a congenital defect, meaning it was caused in utero rather than it being genetic. It's something a family member might remember if it's been pointed out, although it's improbable her parents are still alive after she was found so long ago. Her family would be missing someone who was likely born between 1954 and 1958, who went missing just as her life was starting. Maybe she wasn't from Los Angeles. It's a pretty common area that people travel to with dreams for the future. She was wearing a white blouse with green flowers, dark pink or red capri pants, and white Olga brand sandals. Anyone with information should contact the Los Angeles Coroner's Office. This case has heartbreak on both sides, and her family deserves answers, and she deserves a name. In the U.S., if you're feeling hopeless, you can call, text, or chat with 988. If you are outside the U.S., please find someone to speak with. There is no shame in needing help. The Los Angeles Jane Doe 1975 has gone unidentified for 49 years. The Nipton Jane Doe 1976, Nipton, California. We begin this case on May 30th, 1976. It was a Sunday, and the day was in the mid-70s or around 24 degrees Celsius. It's a beautiful day to be outdoors, not too hot, not too cold, and an adventurous family would venture out to explore an abandoned mine shaft outside of Nipton, California. Once they descended into the mine shaft, they found her mixed within various debris, and she hadn't even been there very long. And there is a post-mortem photo available for anyone it might help. I don't show these on the channel. And for those that do look, I know I've personally encountered the photo many times before, and for those interested in these cases, you probably have too. The same as the images by Carl Koppelman. The mine shaft itself is near Interstate 15, which is the route usually traveled between Los Angeles, California, and Las Vegas, Nevada. I live in Montana, and I've even driven this route. So I believe they point this out because a lot of people pass by. So it's possible she was not even from the area. And whoever put her there may also have links to other states outside of California. Her COD was a wound to her back, which went through her swimsuit and destroyed her liver. Then she was thrown into the mine, where she thankfully did not end up near the bottom, which I'm sure was probably the desire. In this specific mine shaft, there were multiple levels, and she landed on the first one. Whoever did this had thrown debris on top of her, and she'd been there maybe 4 to 6 days. They were able to obtain fingerprints and dental x-rays. That alone had to be a daunting task for those in 1976. Dental x-rays were physical, as were the fingerprints, but they did what they could and they tried to identify her. Now, of course, hard copies of films are less likely to be found after dentists retire, and a lot of time has passed. And there's no word of trying to get DNA suitable for genetic genealogy. So for right now, the only real clues as to who she was is that she was likely 18 to 30 in 1976. This would place her date of birth around 1946 to 1958. But it's important to remember this is always their best guess. She was 5'4" or 163 centimeters and around 155 pounds or 70 kilograms. Her peers would likely be in their late 60s to late 70s. Nearly 50 years would have passed since they'd last seen our Jane Doe. I also feel that I need to point out that I think her face in the depictions may have been made to look chubbier than it actually had been. It's always hard to tell with images based entirely after someone passed, but I am the exact same height as she is, and just based on my own experience that I won't bore you with, I think her face may have been thinner and some collarbone may have shown at that weight when she was holding herself upright. Her remains are also noted as not being suitable for DNA, although, of course, it's always possible they may be able to get it later on, even though they didn't think they could. For this fact alone, it is so much more important to try to identify her through the photos. If anyone has any information at all, please call the number on the screen. The Nipton Jane Doe has gone unidentified for 48 years. Thank you everyone so much for watching and listening. If you aren't subscribed, please take a moment to do so, hitting the bell so you are notified of new videos. And thank you all for leaving comments and emojis to help with engagement. It all pushes the channel to get suggested to new people, and I appreciate that so much. Take care of yourselves and each other.